Hi, welcome back to My Perspective. I'm your host, Shelby Wright, and I'm so excited for you to be here today. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about everything burnout. I know that so many people experience burnout, especially when you're in college or you're post-grad. Everyone experiences burnout. This is something that I struggle with so much, and I have created a whole to-do list for myself to combat burnout and make sure I don't experience it, or if I do, I have a pretty much like a whole reset for myself. So I want to share with you my burnouts, what causes me to feel like this, and then what I do to help and get myself back to feeling replenished and having a ton of energy and just being back to my normal happy self. But before we get into the episode, let's do the segments. My update of this week, I really couldn't think of one until I realized yesterday. Yesterday I had such a good day, honestly, and one of the things I did was I went to Castaway Park, which is one of my favorite walks in Orange County. It's probably only maybe even a mile walk in Newport, around I think maybe 20 to 30 minutes. When I was walking along this route, this lady stopped me, Shelby, and I looked, and it was actually the lady that I met in France. So I'll summarize this story really quickly. When I was flying from Paris to Nice, I was sitting next to this couple and we started chatting, and we realized that my sister lived around the corner from them. And it was a really small coincidence that they were from Newport and they lived right next to my sister. Then when the flight was coming to an end, we were talking about getting Ubers, and I asked them what hotel they were staying at. And I actually was using a coworker's pass for Marriott because you have family and friends discount. And so I was staying at a very nice hotel right on the water, and they were staying at the exact same hotel. And this is pretty much 101 of what to do when you travel alone is never tell anyone you're traveling alone. Don't tell them where you're staying, and don't tell them your name. And I did all three of those things because for some reason, knowing they're from Newport Beach just made me feel safer, even though I'm pretty sure there was a dentist couple living in Newport Beach or something and was like not killing kids, but maybe trafficking them, doing something really horrible. My instincts of them just being from where I live and being really nice could have been totally bad, but it actually gets worse. So we take the Uber together. Max and I this weekend watched the movie Taken, and it's pretty much a girl getting abducted in Paris, so it kind of freaked me out because that could have totally happened to me. When we went to the hotel, they gave me their number for like recommendations and stuff, and then she ended up texting me that they were going to Saint-Tropez the next day in a couple days, and they were inviting me because they had a car and they knew I was there alone. So I spent the entire day with them, going to Saint-Tropez and other places in France with them, and they paid for the entire day. I obviously bought them something at the end, but they just treated me like their own child. We've just followed each other on social media since I moved to Orange County post-grad. I actually was going out to dinner for my little brother's birthday, and we ran into them, and I hadn't seen them for a year. When I was on my walk, I ran into her again. So she actually, I guess, lived in that neighborhood and paused her walk and then decided to walk with me the rest of the way. And we walked to her house, and I knew they bought a house because they just bought it when we went to France. They have been reconstructing for the entire year. So I walk into this home. It is my Pinterest board in real life. This house was absolutely stunning from the inside to the backyard to the outside. And I was blown away by all the details and how beautiful it was. And usually a lot of people don't, I feel like, have this similar style. So I was just amazed, and it was stunning. And so I hung out at their house for probably 45 minutes until the sun went down and I had to walk back. We're gonna get coffee when they come back from vacation, but it was such a small world. That is the second person I have met on this walking trail, and it is by far my favorite because it's stunning. It looks as if you're walking along Martha Stewart's runway or The Summer I Turned Pretty, all those homes. My like of this week is yesterday still, I slept a total of 13 hours. I was so exhausted on Saturday for no reason. It was 1 p.m., then 7 p.m., and I still just wanted to sleep all day. So I didn't set an alarm for myself Sunday morning. I went to bed at 9 and I didn't wake up till 10 and realized that I booked a bar class and I forgot to cancel it. And so then I had to go to bar right away. I would not have made that class if I didn't wake up at 10, but I felt so refreshed. I probably could have kept sleeping, but I knew I needed to get my day started. So I think my body was just very exhausted, and I wake up so early usually. I'm probably gonna go to bed pretty early tonight. I was gonna take a nap, but I don't know. I haven't decided if I'm gonna take a nap yet. Or I woke up this morning at 5:30 a.m. because I was taking a hot Pilates class, and then I was supposed to go to work, but then my boss's mom was sick, so then I went back home, couldn't go back to bed, so I was kind of bummed about that because I didn't sleep that much. And then my dislike of this weekend was I was very irritable. I think maybe I was just so tired and I had a long week that I was not very nice to Max, and I just really needed to be alone. And he came home just for the weekend from Arizona, so I wanted to spend time with him. But if it was any other week, like he was just always home, I probably would have told him like we can hang out another day because I'm just not in the best mood. Let's just get into today's episode. It's gonna be a pretty quick one. Burnout is not just a feeling of being tired or stressed when it really does feel like that. It's a state of chronic physical and emotional exhaustion. It usually comes in fatigue, headaches, changes in your sleep pattern, like this weekend. I want to talk about this because I feel like I'm currently burnout. So like on Saturday when I was being extremely irritable, I was tired all day since maybe noon. I probably could have fallen asleep at 7 p.m., but I knew I probably should just try to keep myself up 2 more hours just so I didn't wake up at like 5 a.m. And then also I had a headache all day. So that's just my body screaming at me that I am exhausted. Emotional sides of being burnout is maybe you're very detached. I feel like that right now in my relationships. I'm just very not involved, and I don't have the energy to be, even though I want to. Or maybe you're not completing things on your to-do list. I'm so behind on my health coaching class. It makes me very worried. I know I'll get it done, but I want to do it the best of my ability, and I'm not managing it good enough. And I think there's so many causes of why people might have burnout, and I kind of just wanted to have an open vent sesh of what it's like to be burnout, or maybe to hear somebody else talk about what they're being overwhelmed with, and maybe it'll normalize what you're going through or make you feel a little bit better in some way. So I'm just gonna go down the running list I have of things in my life that are just an everyday person, because being burnout is not being able to deal with your daily stressors anymore. And so this list of everything that I do in my life is the normal list that everyone goes through, but it seems very overwhelming for me now because I'm so overwhelmed. I'm exhausted. I need a break. First things first is you may be thinking you just need to go to therapy. And here's the thing. I agree. Therapy is a wonderful source, and that I have advocated for people for so long. I think I totally would have been open to therapy in high school if I knew that I had the resources for it, if it was more accessible. Now I know that Kaiser pays for therapy, but I didn't know how to do that without telling my parents. I think mental health in families is very stigmatized sometimes. I didn't know that you can do that whole process without talking to adults. But luckily, when I went to college, I had a friend at the time tell me about the free therapy services on campus. I am so grateful for her basically holding my hand through the whole process of getting a therapist. I think I was so lucky. My first ever therapist, she changed my life. She makes me not want to go back to therapy because she's not my therapist anymore. My school campus, so amazing for this, had free therapy services only during the school year, which was a bummer during the summer, but it was free. I got to see her about every 2 weeks. She specialized in everything that I dealt with. I did have this therapist for almost 3 years, so we built a very strong relationship. And the number one thing that's important about going to therapy is the relationship between the client and the therapist. If you don't think your therapist likes you, it's not going to work out. My freshman year, I knew I didn't have therapy in the summers because they don't continue it, basically. Because a perk about being a therapist through a school is they get the summers off, like a professor. So I decided to go through Kaiser maybe for just the summer. Actually, at that time, I remember being in Hawaii. And this was when I first started to read self-development books. And I just had an epiphany of my life and how I was going to change it and how I was going to be a better person. And I just viewed the world differently. And those books really changed my life in that moment. And so when I had my first consultation with the therapist, I pretty much told her that my life was great, that I fixed all my problems, and I didn't necessarily say I didn't need therapy, but I was just doing great. So then we had maybe 1 or 2 more therapy sessions. And the thing about me is I'm not always the most self-regulated, if that's a word, or self-disciplined. So for me, I like to do things on my own time, or I like to do things convenient. If it's not convenient, it really bothers me. I really liked virtual therapy. My first session was in person, and I go in person. There was a therapist in person, and then there was a specialist on the phone. And what really bothered me was that the specialist on the phone didn't really say much. I just thought it was super pointless that there was someone on the phone while there was also someone in person with me. And then flash forward, we had our second appointment, and I'm also one of those persons where there's a lot of things going in my life that I don't want to talk about unless someone specifically asks me. That's totally a me problem, but I don't want to open up unless it's directly asked to me because I feel uncomfortable for some reason. And I'm a lot better about that now, but for the longest time, it took a lot of me to open up, especially to a therapist. And I think because it was a new therapist, I put up a wall. For me, I have to think that the therapist likes me. I hope they do actually like me, but they at least have to pretend. I'm saying this because when we had the virtual calls, I would say I'm doing great, or not necessarily I'm doing great, but I wouldn't say much, and then they'd be like, okay, seems like you're doing great, bye. And we were on the phone for maybe 10 minutes. To me, as a therapist, I would assume that people don't like to open up, and you have to let it sit for a little bit before just hanging up. And I thought we had a whole 50 minutes together, so it really caught me off guard that they would just end the session that fast. So I pretty much was like, okay, this is not worth it. I'll just wait to go back to school. It's not a pressing issue at the moment. I go back to school, and I start therapy again. I think I started it a little bit later because I was doing pretty good. But I started therapy back up, and I thought that I was pretty honest with my therapist. And I was going through a lot more friend issues that I think a lot of my insecurities come in my relationships with friends. So that's what I talked about majority of the time. Flash forward my junior year, because I didn't also have therapy in between my sophomore and junior year. I started to really open up to my therapist, and she told me that I didn't really open up to her prior to that, which I don't believe, but she's a therapist. She decided that maybe I needed to see a new therapist, someone can see me more regularly, because I said that seeing her every 2 weeks, every month is not enough, and I'd really want to see her every week. And she's like, okay, maybe you need to go see an outside provider, because she didn't have the resources for that. I decided to go see an outside provider. I swear to God, this therapist did not like me. She literally told me that I don't try, just like so many things about myself that I didn't agree with and really upset me. And so I decided I didn't want to see her anymore. When I was doing my why are you leaving, she was the one taking the assessment, so I obviously didn't tell the truth. So I went back to my favorite therapist in college. Then obviously college ended, and I cried immediately after my last session in my car because I loved her so much, and I didn't want to start over the process with a new therapist about my whole life and all my relationships in my life. And she just understood me at that point and knew exactly what to say and how I worked and let me process things the way I did. Move forward, I decided to go through Kaiser again try to get therapy post-grad. This therapist, she seems a bit young, which is fine. It's actually better than someone being too old and not understanding the digital age. But she would take notes the entire time during therapy, and she would have me journal in front of her and then made me read it out to her. And then she really questioned a lot of the relationships I have in my life, kind of doubted myself, and I really didn't like that. I didn't feel like it was helpful. She just never called to reschedule. You know what? I don't want to reschedule with her. I can totally find a new therapist, but I just felt like our vibes didn't match up. I laugh a lot too when I'm uncomfortable, so I think my old therapist knew how to handle that and would help me open up. but then this therapist at Kaiser was like so confused. And it's like, that's just how I handle my emotions, is I laugh because I'm uncomfortable. I haven't been going to therapy, and I'm a huge advocate of therapy. I just think at this moment in my life, I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for that deep internal work right now. I think I need a break. My therapist at school told me, like, maybe you just need a break from all of this. Like, maybe that's okay. And I've been really working hard on myself since going to college, and I need to just let myself relax a little bit. So I think I'm a little bit burnt out on therapy. And that kind of goes in with personal development. I used to read a personal development book every other book. So I'd read a fiction book or like a romance book, and then I would read a personal development book. I think you can overdose in personal development. I saw a video saying that I think personal development also is not usually being overseen by a professional. Also, when you really take yourself out of it. I'm a 20-year-old woman living in Orange County, in SoCal, in California, in the United States, in whatever region of the world we are, and then in the world, and then in the atmosphere, and whatever else. I'm this one little person. I can only do so much personal development before I'm burnt out. Before then, I start picking myself apart and thinking about all the things that I could do, all the things that I can do to make myself better. And then I start analyzing other people, and it's like, why aren't they doing this? Why can't? In college, I really started, I think, taking personal development a little too far and pushing my toxic trait, I think, in the best way possible. I really wanted the best for other people, but I was pushing people to personal development before they were ready. In a way, creating ultimatums or making them maybe feel bad because they weren't in it as much as I was. Even some of the podcasts I listen to, I get kind of exhausted, and then I have to go find other ones that are a little bit more chit chat, like the podcast What We Said, because I'm tired. I love it so much. It's very interesting to me, but sometimes I have to let myself relax and let it go. Let myself veg out for a moment. And I think that's why I've been watching so much TV recently and really let my nighttime routine be watching TV, because I'm constantly go and making myself be overly productive than the average person probably. So my update with therapy is I'm not doing it right now. It feels a little bit too much. I'm not really reading any self-development books right now except the book 101 Essays to Change the Way You Think. And that one I just read one chapter every time I go to read. So maybe like one chapter a week. Very, very easy, nothing crazy. Next is career. Career is something, or your job, that's very tricky for me. So I started working, I think, at maybe 14 years old, 15 years old. I've always been someone who strives to make money. But the thing is, when I start to make money, I want to just do it all day, every day, because I love seeing the satisfaction of my paycheck. And I know if I work longer hours, then I'll make more money. When I had my internship this summer, it was really nice because I was being paid a pretty decent amount for an internship, or an hourly wage for that matter, and I was working 40 hours a week. So I didn't feel the need to go and get a second job. To give you some background, every summer, or whenever I have the chance to make extra money, I always would. I'd always stay the longest hours. I'd always have 2 to 3 jobs. I would always have a weekend job, a babysitting job, whatever it is. I would always try to make more money and be working 60, 70 hours a week. But for some reason, my summer, I didn't do that because I felt what I was doing was enough. But now, since I'm not working that internship, I have the desire to get a second, a third, a fourth job because I'm not satisfied with how much money I'm making and it stresses me out. But then another part of myself is thinking, this podcast is so important to me. I want to put all my time and energy into my podcast, into my social media, and that is a job in itself. Except I'm not necessarily being paid for it all the time. Like, I make brand deals every once in a while, but it's not as much as maybe if I went and got a serving job. But if I worked a serving job, I would automatically be paid minimum wage, and I wouldn't have the extra time to work on my podcast. So for me, the career part is it overwhelms me a lot because I have all this time. Actually, I don't have all this time. So let's take 40 hours out of the week. Then I have I work out once a day, so maybe that's like 7 hours out of the week. I want to write this down. Alrighty, let me break down why I feel overwhelmed when it comes to money and working. How many hours are in a week? 24 hours times 7. There's 168 hours in the week. Let's say I sleep for 7 hours 7 days a week. There's 160 hours in a week minus 49 hours of sleeping a week. That leaves you with 119 hours of daylight. But let's subtract 40 hours of the work week. That leaves 79 hours. Now let's remove 7 hours of working out because I work out almost every day. That leaves 72 hours. Let's say I make dinner 7 days a week. Let's not even count lunch and breakfast. Let's just count 7 hours for dinner. That leaves 65 hours a week. I focus on my podcast, probably 5, maybe 6 more hours. Leaves 59 hours. My health coaching takes about 4 hours a week, 55 hours. Maybe social media, I spend about an hour on a day. Maybe leaves 48 hours in the week. I don't really know if I did that math well, but pretty much I feel like if I have a second job, I don't have enough time in the day. Even having a 40-hour work week doesn't feel like enough for me. And on top of that, I'm currently going to school for health coaching. Health coaching is supposed to be about 4 hours a week. Currently, I've been doing my lectures while I make dinner, and then I'll go back and write notes for everything. But I'm currently behind maybe 3 weeks, maybe 4. I have my first test next week, and I'm sure I'm going to ace it. I want to give all my attention to that because health coaching is something I'm very passionate about and something I could actually see for my career. Health coaching is also something I have made myself kind of sign up to because I put money into it and all my time, and I'm not going to be done till next July or September. I can't remember which. I think September. I just started. On top of that is I have a dog. I got a dog when I was, I think 18 years old, maybe 18, 19, 20, 20. I did get a dog when I was 18. Then it died. But now I have a dog at 19. He requires a lot of attention, you know? I love him dearly. He's been absolutely amazing this weekend. Thankfully, I can bring him to work. So that cut out an hour walk every single day of walking him because there's another dog at work, so he plays with her all day. I would drive home during my lunch break, walk him. I'd maybe walk him in the morning, and I'd always do a super long walk at night. That cut out a lot of walking for me, thank goodness, because it was very time consuming. So I save a lot of time with him being able to come to the warehouse with me. But having a dog is very expensive and a lot of work. It all revolves around him, like him needing to play, him needing to go outside, always trying to find an activity that he can come with me. He's sleeping in his crate right now. It's adorable. He's the light of my life. I absolutely love him. I did used to feel a lot more overwhelmed with having a dog when I couldn't bring him. Then there's relationships. For me, moving to a new place, I thought I was going to have a huge, solid friend group by now. I don't know why I thought that. I just assumed it was going to come a little bit quicker than it has. For me, when I'm feeling overwhelmed and burnout, I actually pull away a lot, because I need the self-isolation because I'm so overwhelmed. If I hang out with people, I'm usually irritable, or I'm not fun to hang out with, like when I was hanging out with Max this weekend. But it also takes time away from building connection. I know I have to go out of my way to actually hang out with people and meet them and build those friendships. You can't just build those friendships if you're not going to a Pilates place and actually speaking to someone. I literally don't usually speak to anyone because I'm so nervous. But usually when I'm burnt out, I don't reach out to my friends. I'm not keeping up with everyone's lives. And granted, a lot of my friends are long distance since moving, and friends moving to different colleges. And I'm having a really hard time keeping in touch with people. And I know they'll always hopefully be my friend, and they just know that this is a period in our friendship. It's also hard to know where I know I could be a better friend, but I just don't have the energy to do that right now. Lastly, something that also makes me feel overwhelmed is my health journey. As everyone knows, I'm very into health and wellness, the basis of this podcast, and I'm getting my health coaching license. But it also is such a draining process. I have thought that by now I would have known the root causes to my hormone imbalances, my gut health, my mold toxicity, and sometimes I'm left with so much uncertainty, no answers, and there's so much social media discussions out there of quote-unquote experts, people sharing their own experiences, but our bodies are so bio-individual that what works for one person will most likely not work for me. That is very frustrating because, at least for myself, I just want to know what's wrong so I can fix it. And I've thought about so many times paying someone, another health coach for instance, to do that for me. That costs money that I pretty much don't have at the moment. And I think I am a health and wellness enthusiast, so I'm like, I can figure it out myself, but I'm a year and a half into my hormone imbalances and my period is still not regular. It's regular that it's every 40 plus days, but it's not regular under, your period should be like 38 days the most to 23 days. Why is mine so long? I don't know. So it's frustrating that I know that is not balanced, for instance, or I know that I should have a libido. I know that my nails have gotten a lot thicker recently, but I just feel like there's a lot of little things like that, or like my skin breaks out still sometimes. I have no energy, and I am currently detoxing from mold. Like that was something that was a huge relief off my shoulders, but that's still another to-do thing on my list of I need to sweat every day, I need to take my supplements every day, and it can just be exhausting. Like, I just want a whole day of doing nothing where my to-do list is not on my mind. But the thing is, if I do that, the next day I'm like, oh my god, I have so much things to do that I didn't do. I want a day where I don't do anything purposefully, and then the second day have no guilt of not doing anything. Having no guilt that I wasn't productive, and being unproductive was actually productive for my mental health. But now that I have vented about all my problems that make me feel overwhelmed, when they're actually just very normal things that we all go through. We all go through our career, our family, our relationships, our school. Now let's talk about things that I do for myself that make me feel better and feel more rejuvenated and get myself back to 100% when I'm feeling like this. Starting off strong is sleeping in, letting myself actually rest. That can be sleeping in or taking naps. I don't know why, but I created this sort of rule for myself that I probably need to break. I like to work out before work because if I don't, I won't have the energy to work out after work. But sometimes that means I don't get enough hours of sleep. I didn't go to bed early enough, and now like last night I only got 6 hours of sleep. So basically my rule is like if I'm on my period, I'm allowed to sleep until 7 a.m. But the thing is, if I'm exhausted like I was this weekend, I should set my alarm for the amount of time I need to get ready to go to work, or on the weekend not set an alarm and actually let my body rest. Today I've been debating taking a nap or not, because sometimes if I take a nap I won't be able to fall asleep at night. But I woke up, I only had 6 hours of sleep last night, so maybe I really need to be strict with myself and be like, Shelby, you need to get at least 8 hours of sleep tonight. And I'm taking another earlier class tomorrow morning, so I really need to go to bed. So I think rest is something that is super important, because when we're burnt out, we usually have a huge never-ending to-do list, and sometimes we feel like sleep takes away of the day, so we're trying to be rebellious in a way and be like, well, I can go to bed later and make up for that time, but really that's just self-sabotage, because it's unproductive time and our body actually needs that time to replenish and digest and rejuvenate our cells and everything like that. Number 2 is see one person a week. Because I'm trying to make friends here in Orange County, I have been, since Max being gone, I've been trying to see one person a week, whether that's someone I already know or a new friend. So today I'm going to a girls walk club. I think it's called the Girls Walk Club. I think that's what it's called. And we're going to go walk around the Christmas lights, I think at the harbor. And I invited a girl from TikTok. This will be my second time hanging out with her. And that'll be my one friend a week this week. And if I'm feeling up to it, maybe I'll schedule one for this weekend. Last week I hung out with my sister's friend's roommate's little sister, and we went on a walk after I had work. It was a week ago today, and that was on a Monday, so I could have hung out with someone on the weekend if you really thought about it, because it was so far apart. But then the weekend came around and I was so exhausted. I was like, good thing I didn't schedule another friend hangout, because I was already so tired and my list was so long. So I try to just do one friend hangout a week, and it works for me because most of my friends are long distance, so it's not like I have all my friends here and they're wondering where I'm at. But I think you need to see what your energy levels are every week and how much socialization you can take in this time of feeling really low. The third thing I do is hang out with Miso, my dog. So maybe you don't have a dog, but maybe just anything that makes you feel comfort. I love to take Miso on walks. I love to take him to the beach or just go to the beach in general. Snuggles. So I'm pretty sure like there's a hormone in your body that releases happy chemicals, and hugging someone releases that, and I'm pretty sure it's dopamine. And actually hugging an animal is the same exact thing. So my favorite thing about Miso is our mornings together because he is so cuddly in the morning. And he's just been a very good dog. I feel we've really connected recently because he's allowed to come to work with me and he's not angry at me for leaving him home all day. It's just really nice to know that we're on the same page. And he's a dog, but I still feel the energy. Next is to make a to-do list. This sounds counterproductive because to-do lists can be overwhelming, but this is a special to-do list. So this helped me a lot when I had a lot of things going on and I was feeling overwhelmed. I did this for school. You're going to go to an Excel sheet or Google Sheets and you're going to make a to-do list based on dates. And you're going to have it categorized also by what it is. So personal to-do list, homework, school, work, color coordinate everything, and I would do one task a day. So usually my to-do list is 5 to 6 things a day. So instead, I had a to-do list that was marked by date. So let's say I had a 20 list, like I usually have a master to-do list, and I started to put all those items into a date specific. And I made sure I didn't have a date that had more than 2 things to do on that date. And this really helped me because then when I would go to the new day, I'd be like, oh my goodness, I only have one thing to do today, and that is to clean my apartment, or that is to drop off clothes at the alterations. I stopped having 5-10 things to do a day. I just let myself complete that one important task and I would spread it out. Also, most of the things on your to-do list are not pressing that you need to do today. It's usually like you kind of just need to get it done. It's more like an errand. So I highly recommend making yourself a to-do list that is just what you need to get done for that day and spreading it out across a couple of days versus all in one day, not overwhelming yourself. You need to do basically the bare minimum. Going along with that is you need to get rid of everything that's not essential. Well, that's a to-do list, something in your home, a plan you already made. When I'm feeling very overwhelmed, if I have an extra workout on my schedule, I need to get rid of it if I don't need to do it. If that won't make me feel better, I shouldn't do it. If I have 2 friend hangouts and I don't really need to see one of them, like I saw her the week prior, I can cancel. You need to get rid of whatever is not super pressing, whether that's hanging out with someone, something on your to-do list, like something that's been on my to-do list for I think 2 years now is going to get my clothes altered. It's in the back of my car. I went once and they're closed, but it's not very important. And I do need to get it done, but I'll get it done when I get it done. Next is reading or watching movies to escape. Usually I'm not a fan of escaping from your life because you shouldn't want to escape. But personally, I think that watching TV or reading a good book is something that will take you out of your anxiety mindset, your spiral of your thoughts, just lets you forget about it for a moment. I'm a person who always thought I had to be productive, and reading and watching TV is letting yourself just rest a little bit. It's letting your body lay down. Maybe you're cuddling your dog. I've been watching Suits since I think summer. I'm still not done with it. I watch it almost every night for an hour, and I look forward to it every single day. It's just a little simple pleasure in my life that I'm looking forward to, and that's fine that it's not reading sometimes. And sometimes I love to read and it's a romance novel and I'm so into it, but I think you gotta let yourself have the little pleasures. Next is eating foods that make you feel better. That can be comfort food, that can be home cooked food, or that can be even takeout. I'm not a huge fan of eating out and takeout, but when I'm exhausted, I don't want to cook. So if I don't have a meal, I would say this weekend I haven't really ate my best because I've been so exhausted. So I made a frozen pizza the other night, or I ordered Thai food and I've ordered poke. I think I've ate out 3 times at least this week, and that's not very normal for me, but I have then had to reevaluate why I ate out because I got home and I was so exhausted I had no energy to make anything. I had just no motivation, and I usually cook almost every single meal from home from scratch with all whole ingredients, and I know when I don't feel in the mood to do the cooking and the cleanup and actually eating it, I know I'm exhausted and it's okay to eat out. Eat foods that make you feel better. That can be anything. It can be home cooked food. I know that internally makes me feel good. I don't feel sluggish. I'm not bloated. But at the same time, there's comfort food. I love fried rice. And there's just certain things that I ate as a kid that I just have been craving, Next is not going out. I think it's really hard to force yourself to not over socialize or not go out to a party or go out to the bars when everyone around you is doing it and you feel you might get FOMO, you might be left out. Realize realize that that's probably not going to replenish you. You actually may feel worse the next morning because you drank, you didn't get enough rest, and you didn't eat well. I highly advise, and I don't usually go out when I'm not feeling well because I'm usually not a great time anyways, or I'm going to overly drink to compensate how I actually feel. And so maybe scheduling that going out for the next week when you're feeling a little bit better, and maybe you just need a night in to go to bed early, read a book, watch some TV, make some food, make some dessert, and just spend time alone. Second to last one is setting up some sort of self-care appointment. One appointment that I set up for myself this week, actually Max booked for me, is a facial. I booked a facial this week, a lymphatic drainage massage for my face, because the last time I went, my skin looked absolutely amazing. Recently, my skin has not been doing so great, either because I'm eating a lot of dairy and sugar, or because I work in a warehouse where I go in the mirror and my face is actually black. There is dirt all over my face. I take a paper towel, I'll wipe my face, and it looks like I just took mascara off my face. It is straight dirt. That cannot be good for my skin every single day, just having dirt on me all the time. So I booked a facial for myself and I'm very excited to go. And I booked it for Wednesday. That'll be about a 45-minute facial to just relax, a time for me, a time for my skin to look really nice and glowy. And I've realized that when my lymphatic passageways are clogged, I'll also break out. So I know that this facial will just leave me feeling very rejuvenated. And then the very last one, very simple. Everyone probably says this and you probably know this yourself, but having a clean home. One thing I try to do every single day is clean my home. When my house is clean, my mind is clear, and that's why it was really hard for me to live with other people, because I couldn't control a clean home. I actually have my cleaner coming on Friday. That is something I also invested in myself this year, was getting a cleaner, because she gets into all the nooks and crannies that I refuse to do, and it makes me feel a lot better that I personally do not need to touch the toilet or the shower and wash the floors, and she gets all the dust. But having a clean home, clean sheets, clean bed, made bed, everything put away, I try to have a very minimalistic decoration style because it makes me feel better too. So I think if your home, your environment of where you're living, where you're spending majority of your time is clear, it's going to make you feel better too. Nobody, I think, can function in a very cluttered home, because a cluttered home is a cluttered mind, and I personally cannot get anything done. I cannot think if I see a mess. Thank you to everyone who listened to the episode. Please rate the show 5 stars, follow it, send it to a friend you think would like the show, because if you like it, I know one of your friends might, and share it on social media. The Instagram for the pod is My Perspective Pod, and then the TikTok is Shelby, and my YouTube and Pinterest is just my name as well. Thank you so much for listening. I know this was more of a vent sesh for myself. I hope you guys understand and get it, because burnout is something I struggle with all the time, and really I try to stay on top of my habits so I don't burn out, but it's inevitable sometimes and we all go through it. So hopefully we all get that reset that we need. But I'm so grateful for you guys. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you next week.